Mile High Insiders with Nick Kendell and Luke Patterson. Head on over to milehighhuddle.com for all things Broncos. Now, it's time to find out what's going on behind the walls of UC Health Training Center.
Welcome, Broncos country, to the Mile High Insiders. He is Nick Kendell. I am Luke Patterson, and we are pumped that you guys are here. We are pumped to wrap Broncos. We had 2 pro days, Nick, and one of which we're going to really focus on, and that's going to be the Penn State pro day. Micah Parsons will be a definite subject that we've got to talk about. There's also another player I know that you've got your eye on, I think a defensive end for Penn State as well that we'll get into. But Broncos country, I see you out there. Thank you so much for joining us. He's at Nick Kendell, MHH on Twitter. I'm at Luke Patterson, LP. We're at Mile High Huddle. And before we get into it too much, Nick, how are you, man? Saturday night, I know you said you got a little bit of hike in. I know you're ready to talk football, but how are you, buddy?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm getting excited. The weather's starting to get a little nicer here and here. Still doing a house hunt for a rental, but we'll find something hopefully in the North Seattle area. I got my little area. My buddies are out here, the nice little brewery scene. So hopefully I don't have to move too far from that, but doing pretty darn well. And also people saying, hey, Nick's got hair. Yes, my hat's in the background there, but I just got a clean cut. So I figured, got product in today trying to look nice for the making sure that we could make a good appearance for when we're looking at these houses. But yeah, no, man, it's great. I'm really excited to have you back. I missed you last week. Carl and I had some fun, and we had the Kyle Fuller signing to touch on, which, big pod. But, we got a lot to talk about still, recapping and the draft, free agency, this team in general. So, it'll be fun.
Yeah, and, I absolutely caught that, and that was one of the best things, and I'll plug that a little bit later where you guys can find our podcast as well. But before we get into it too much, I want to say what's up to some folks. I see Carl Smith in the house, JT is in the house, our buddy Mike Mundungus Creevy, Robert Kitchens. Man, we've got a huge list of comments rolling right now, and Mundungus Creevy coming in right away with a super chat, 99.99 super. Appreciate you, Mike, so much. Luke's back. Love you too, Nick. Trade up to 2 for Wilson or 4 for Field/Lance. Paton giving me heart palpitations with not knowing anything he is doing. Hashtag sassy Glenn, of course, referring to Glenn Hauser. Nick, Mike is coming off the top rope swinging right away, so we're going to get into it. What do you think, man? What do you make of all the movement yesterday in the draft? If the Broncos love a quarterback like Mike is talking about, how do they get there, or can they get there?
I think it's going to be much like 2018 where the Broncos had goo-goo eyes, specifically John Elway had goo-goo eyes for Sam Darnold. And also they like Baker Mayfield. This is, what I've heard. And they were not as interested in Josh Allen, Josh Rosen, Lamar Jackson. And I think it's going to 1, 2, 3 quarterback right now. And I think the Broncos specifically are interested. Obviously Trevor Lawrence, but he's unattainable. I think they would like to get Wilson or Lance. And right now, from what I'm hearing and what I think it's going to be, I think you're going to have 1, 2, 3 Lawrence, Wilson, Lance off the board. And the Broncos doesn't sound like they're as interested in Mac Jones, Justin Fields. We still got the Alabama second pro day coming up and the Ohio State pro day. So things might change. The Broncos have been keeping it pretty close to the vest, actually, compared to what it was during the John Elway regime. But, we'll see. I think that trade with San Francisco paying 3 ones to go up from 12 to 3 guys. People say 3 was too much for Deshaun Watson before everything happened, but the price of quarterback, baby, if you don't have one, pay up. So it's, I don't know. I think they might be in the outside looking in, which means you're gonna have to shift the perspective and what they have to do. And, hope on a prayer that Drew Lock can turn it around and not be a bottom 5 quarterback like he was last year.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Looks like we got our guy, our male model of MHH coming in, Mohammed Badri, one of our good friends with a super chat, $3 super. And it looks like my eyes are going on me, Nick. I want to say a squirrel. Does that look like a happy squirrel to you? Can we agree on that?
It's either a squirrel or a corgi or a chipmunk, but either way, it looks excited. And I'm excited. Mohammed Badri's in the house with us today as well.
Appreciate you, Mo. Appreciate you. Dylan Von Arx is in the house. Phoenix, I see you. JT, Todd Ostendorf. Man, we've got a full house and a bunch of stuff to get to. So, Nick, let's get it going, man. Micah Parsons, you and I, we have differing opinions about Micah Parsons, but one thing that I think we can both agree on, what a pro day. Tell me a little bit about your impressions of Micah Parsons as a prospect, but especially as a prospect after his pro day.
I mean, it just confirmed what you see on tape. The dude, for his size, is a specimen and a freak athlete. And if you're looking for somebody who can bring, it's not like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah where you do have the athleticism and the coverage ability, but somebody who can bring it in a massive frame as well. You're not worried about him playing in the box as much as Fangio does with 3 down linemen. Your linebackers are going to take on blockers. You have to be able to scrape against blockers in Fangio scheme. And Parsons can do that sideline to sideline. Now, I don't think he is this, and I think it's just a general misconception. Darren Waller and Travis Kelce, like how often are the Broncos actually using a linebacker in man coverage versus a tight end with Fangio? It just they don't do that really, right? They're much more short zone drops. But getting somebody who's athletic, who can close space sideline to sideline, kind of like what we saw with Devin White in the Super Bowl, that's what you're getting with the athleticism that Parsons brings. So, I mean, he's much better coming downhill, and he's not as refined as a prognosticator or seeing what's happening in front of him as Devin White was coming out of LSU. But man, I mean, if you're looking for an athletic jolt to the linebacking room, Parsons is probably as good as you get on the field. Now, there are some questions. He's still pretty raw, played running back in high school, edge rusher. So they're, but gosh, that size, those movement skills, he's a special talent. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, special talent, and I think you summarized his pro day perfectly. I loved it a lot. And speaking of showing us love, Mundungus Creevy coming in again off the top rope with a 99.99 super chat. Appreciate you so much. MHRT, Mundungus, they are friends of the show. Appreciate you so much, Mike. Can you compare and contrast Sam Darnold and Drew Lock for me? Nick, we talked all the time about quarterback options because, well, we know that Broncos GM George Paton, he's actively on the hunt for a better upgrade. Now, that doesn't mean he hates Drew Lock, but it's just saying that he said he would be in on some of these deals. He said he would be in on some of these pro days, and he's doing that. We know that he just went to Zach Wilson's. He went to Trey Lance's. Well, now talks about Sam Darnold are coming back because Sam Darnold could be on the move. If the New York Jets have fallen in love with Zach Wilson, and some have projected that they already have, I saw I think on the New York Post today, a big old thing that, said Broadway Zach pretty much, and are the Jets in love? So if that's the case, there goes Zach Wilson. Would the Broncos be interested in Sam Darnold? Talk a little bit about the similarities, the differences, and do you like Sam Darnold as a better option than Drew Lock?
I think it's kind of the Spider-Man pointing meme where both players are very similar. I will say that Sam Darnold in general is better out of structure. He doesn't lose his damn mind when the things kind of collapse like Drew Lock does. Like so many bad decisions, bad footwork come when Drew Lock feels pressure and tries to escape the pocket. He's a good athlete, but his technique is a mess and his processing is a mess. You don't have that as much with Sam Darnold. And Sam Darnold, I mean, he feels like he's been in the league for a while. He's actually younger than Drew Lock, benefit of a 20-year-old quarterback when you're drafted. So, I think it's pretty similar, but I would say that Sam Darnold has more just natural accuracy and is slightly better out of structure because a lot of it comes back to the decision making. I mean, Drew Lock out of structure. I just keep coming back to that Chiefs game, the one on the road where the Broncos are driving. It's the first quarter. It's a tie game and it's second down, I think. And Drew Lock throws just a boneheaded pick. You don't see that as much as with Sam Darnold. And also Sam Darnold, I think he's the most likely to be Ryan Tannehill this cycle because he's been on a bad team with a bad head coach. I mean, really, the offense has been terrible. He'd come to Denver and be easily the best team he's played on, supporting cast wise.
I like that, Nick. So at his best, a Ryan Tannehill situation. I think that's a fair comparison. I think Ryan Tannehill obviously had a really, really tough start out there in Miami. And, once you find your guy, but here's the thing. We don't know if San Francisco found their guy. And one of our good friends, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, Darab Qureshi coming in with a question for you, Nick. Anyone think that San Francisco possibly traded up for Pitts, of course, referring to Kyle Pitts, tight end? Nick, I don't think so. I think John Lynch is in love with his quarterback. That's why he made his move up. You and I both subscribe to the theory. If you love him, go get him. There's not a price tag in the world that's too much. So what say you? Could it be Pitts? Could it be, I saw some reports out there of it's Mac Jones from Mr. Lombardi. I don't know if you heard that. That sounded like a little bit of a stretch, but what say you? Could it have been Pitts?
No way. You don't pay that for a non-quarterback. I know even some Broncos are like, trade up for Penny Sewell. The only way you're trading up in the top 10, given the price today is if you're trading up for a quarterback, because gosh, those rookie contracts are so valuable, right? Like the only quarterback that's been winning Super Bowls not on the rookie contract is Tom Brady and Peyton Manning on his swan song season. So they're going up for a quarterback. I mean, we've seen it for years. The 49ers went to the Super Bowl a few years ago, and there's some people apparently in that 49ers organization that pin that loss on Jimmy Garoppolo's poor level of play. I mean, just he's such a capped quarterback. Those pocket quarterbacks are going the way of the dinosaur, in my opinion. So they're going up. I would bet it's Trey Lance. I would love to see him in that wide zone blocking system. I mean, you talk about the bootlegs with Trey Lance on the backside, that edge defender is going to have to like play wide 9 the whole time. He can't crash at all, because if Trey Lance is coming around the other side, you're cooked. So it'll be a lot of fun. I'm excited to what Mike McDaniel could do with him as well in that run game coordinator for San Fran. But, I think it'll be Lance, and you just don't trade up for, like, you talking trading up for Pitts. You can't pay that price for a non-quarterback.
Sure. No, and speaking of paying the price, a good friend who is always willing to donate and be so charitable to Mile High Huddle and the Mile High Insiders, Mr. Willie, in the shop Willie with a $2 super, saying, can we not talk about Parsons, please? Of course, referring to Micah Parsons. Nick, let's talk about this, because character concerns are a issue with this young man. I don't think we need to, at least I don't really want to dive into all the issues. You guys go read about them, and I don't want to debate them or right, wrong, or judge them or anything like that. But Nick, character is such a big part of the NFL draft. It is such a big part of digging into guys. And we could go through guys that have gotten in trouble, but let's talk about recent guys. Look at Paxton Lynch. They didn't really do their homework with Paxton, right? Yeah. I think if a guy like George Paton was doing his homework with Paxton, then maybe he would have found out that he's not such a studier, not such a grinder. The point being, you got to really look into these guys. Some teams have concerns about Micah Parsons and character concerns involving hazing, involving some other really, really crude allegations of assault and things like that. Very serious allegations, by the way. How do you think this affects his draft stock? Because I know you and I poke fun of each other very oftenly and very lovingly, by the way. There's no hate ever between Nick and I when we're going at each other. So please get at him at Nick Kendell, MHH. I'm at Luke Patterson, LP. But Nick, talk a little bit about those character concerns with Micah Parsons, and why some people don't like Parsons coming to the Broncos because of those character concerns.
I don't want to go too far down the wormhole of the allegations against Parsons. Obviously, there are some very concerning ones, but it's not just one incident; it's multiple incidents that makes it concerning. It's also he plays a devalued position. I don't think there's any position on the defense that is more romanticized than the linebacker. I mean, the number one defense in football last year, the Los Angeles Rams, playing the same scheme that the Broncos are going to be playing this year. Brandon Staley got a head coaching gig after 1 year running the scheme with the Rams. Can you name their off-ball linebackers, Luke? I can name a couple, but like it's a bunch of, not anybody of really difference makers. I mean, Micah Kaiser is a lot like Josie Jewell, Kenny Young. It's okay, but like you don't have to have difference makers at linebacker. You just cannot be incompetent there. So, and also this class, another point, it's a really good linebacker class in the top 100. You do not have to use a top pick on a linebacker to get a day one starter. I love Baron Browning at Ohio State.
Me too.
I love Baron Browning. I love the Jamin Davis from Kentucky. I really like Cam McGrone. I mean, there's options.
How about Jabril Cox?
I like Jabril Cox.
How about Dylan Moses, Pete Werner? I mean,
Dylan Moses' knee, I've heard, is cooked. I heard that there's some concerns that he won't even make it through his first contract. He was playing in a lot of pain towards the end of the season, and he did not look good. He like the check engine light was coming on watching him play at the end of the season. So I would, Dylan Moses was there in the 6th round. If you could hope to recapture 2018 Dylan Moses, maybe, but like he's going to fall. He's going to fall. And
by the way, speaking of falling, Caleb Farley, he's going to be falling because of that back surgery. I'm not going to say I told us so, but I told us so. All right. And speaking of told us so, our guy Chad Jensen's behind the scenes as John a very nice and deserved day off. So Chad was sure to pull this up. Speaking of some of those allegations, and a quote from Micah Parsons saying, quote, "At the end of the day that I was a kid," Parsons said, I was 17 to 18. We all made mistakes when we were 17 to 18. I'm not going to let it control or dictate the person I am now. I'm not going to let something that was 3 to 4 years ago dictate who I've become and the father I want to be. End quote.
While Parsons was, 17, 18 years old, no doubt there's questions about him, and they're going to dig into those. But from what I've heard and talking around with multiple sources more connected than myself, I know there's Mile High insiders, but you gotta do the groundwork. What I've heard though, the Broncos were actually at Penn State, not for Parsons, obviously checking out Parsons, but an edge rusher, Jason Owa. Really, really fantastic edge rusher, really long, athletic. I mean, he is traits for days. And when you draft guys, you're not drafting based on production, you're drafting on traits. Now, that's obviously a lead into the concern with Jason Owa is that he had 0 sacks this past season. That Penn State team, I think they were ranked really high to start the year. They just fell off. But anybody who's listened to this show long enough knows that I am very much based on analytics, and sacks are a stat that fluctuate wildly year to year. What is predictive for pass rushers? It's pressures and QB hits. And while Jason Owa did not register a sack last year, he still had 7 in his career, and he's still just kind of learning. He was actually a basketball player pretty recently, then played football. I think it's just his senior year of high school, and then got a ride for Penn State. But 48 individual pressures in his career, and 24 in 2020. So while he didn't get home, and granted it was an abbreviated Big Ten season, I mean, you're talking about an absolute freak athlete. The 100th percentile for athleticism for that 40, the 10-yard split. I mean, going back to George Paton, the guy that you would consider here would be Daniel Hunter. Now, Daniel Hunter, edge rusher for Louisiana State at the time, fell to the 3rd round, extremely athletic, long, can bend the corner. Let's get to Joseph Anthony here, rocking out. We're in the wife beater, joining us on YouTube. I am getting excited for the draft. I am torn between a quarterback and Parsons. Well, Joseph, I'm with you on the quarterback one. I got 4 guys I like. I'm getting a lot of PTSD right now for the quarterbacks right now because I really like Justin Fields. He's my second quarterback, and you got guys like Gil Brandt saying some team has him ranked as a 4th rounder. So I don't know what's going on. I know there are some questions about his ability to process, but is there off-field concerns? I haven't heard anything, but it just seems like the tape is obvious, the talent is obvious, but he's not as loved in NFL circles. I don't really get it. I'm getting PTSD because this is kind of the feeling I had with Josh Rosen, and we all know how that turned out. So I was like, oh, Josh Rosen is so good. I mean, you see it, and then bad. But we'll see what happens.
It's an Ohio State thing, man. I'm telling you, it's an Ohio. I know you may hate it, but look, it's an Ohio State thing. People until they see it, man, they're gonna have reservations. I'm one of those people, and I get it. They are different players, and I'm not just trying to brush him with that broad brush, but we'll see. I think this could be the year, man, where quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that is, of course, unprecedented. And I think that speaks to your point, Nick. There are very good options at quarterback. And just because we've got certain guys, at least for me, ranked above the others, Trey Lance has definitely grown on me very, very much. I think the San Francisco 49ers like him so much that they want to go up and draft him. That's just my personal opinion. How do you feel about that?
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
I agree. I think I don't think you move up for Mac Jones. I mean, you see the limitations. It's the same thing with Sean McVay. He's I'm limited here with this quarterback who can't do anything out of structure. I need to go get a playmaker. So cost controlled playmaker. And that's another reason I think the quarterbacks can go 1, 2, 3, 4. Teams see how valuable these quarterbacks are. And it's the reason that teams like the Washington football team and the Chicago Bears are stuck with their pants around their ankles because they're picking 19th and 20th. And, you cannot get up. You think about how much the 49ers traded to get up from 12 to 3. You're not trading up from 19 or 20 up to get one of the quarterbacks. So the Broncos plans next year of going up for a quarterback, if there is one worthy of an early pick next year in 2020, which I don't really like the class right now, but we'll see what happens with a full year of football. Broncos are going to have to do some moving to accumulate capital because it's going to be near impossible to move up for a quarterback worthy of a top 10 pick if you're picking in the 15 to 25 range.
And on that note, that segues into an excellent question from one of our big fans on Facebook, Drew Love. Guys, if you guys are joining us today via Facebook, go ahead and make sure you're at us at the facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod and Huddle Up Pod and get at us. Show us some love. Look, hey guys, where do you guys see the Broncos going in the first round? There's so many options. Do you see moving up to 2? For Zach Wilson, or moving back and going for Najee Harris or Micah Parsons or another linebacker, or staying and drafting another cornerback or offensive tackle? Excellent question, Drew, because Zach Wilson's my guy. I just don't see George Paton going up to 2 to go get him. I don't think George Paton's just going to start giving draft picks away. We don't have a lot to go off of on George Paton, but the Minnesota Vikings didn't generally conduct a business by wildly trading up to within the first 5 picks. So I don't really see that happening. happening, but what direction do you think the Broncos are going to go in, given their free agency pickups and some of these re-signings that they got with Kareem Jackson and Shelby Harris, extensions, Justin Simmons, things like that? Where do you see the Broncos ultimately going in the first round? And do you agree?
I would have made that trade that the 49ers just made. Maybe it costs a little less because you're going from 9 instead of 12. And I would have gone up there and gotten a quarterback of choice. I'm not sure if Atlanta is looking to trade back. We will see. But if you had 3 quarterbacks that you loved, then go up to 3 and get one. They obviously didn't think it was worth the cost because 49ers jumped them up. And also, thanks to our Mile High Huddle Facebook supporters, guys, # Mile High salute. I think if I was the GM, I'd be sitting there at 9 and saying, listen, if Penny Sewell or Kyle Pitts fell to me at 9, I don't overthink it. I take the talent. You need to think about players, draft picks especially, over their 4-year, 5-year contract and their career arc rather than what does our tight end room look like right now. I mean, we had the no-fly zone 4 years ago, and we went to one of the worst cornerback rooms in football in 3 seasons. Needs fluctuate wildly. Take the talent. Don't overthink it. Don't have a myopic view on the roster. So I would look for the best talent there. I think Kyle Pitts and Penny Sewell, both very talented, both scheme fits, both guys that you can do things with over their career. Then you'd be happy to have them. I think both of those guys will be gone. So what I'm thinking is probably it's going to be a trade back scenario. You hope that Justin Fields or Mac Jones is there so the team's willing to pay up more to go up for the quarterback because there is a premium. There's an extra inflated cost if a quarterback's involved. I mean, we saw that with the 49ers. So that's what I'm hoping. And then that if you trade back here, then you're looking at, linebacker. Najee Harris is one. I hear Pat Shurmur wants Najee Harris bad. Gosh darn, I didn't need another reason to not like Pat Shurmur, but taking a running back in the first round, God bless it. I would be so upset. He wants Nick Foles and Najee Harris, like Pat Shurmur. Yeah. Jump off something, please. God bless. That's something. The Drew Lock lovers, nothing's Drew Lock's fault. And like the don't draft a running back in the first round people. We agree. Shurmur, what the heck are you doing, bud? I think you're looking at edge rusher, offensive tackle, cornerback, linebacker. Those are the positions I think. Maybe Christian Barmore in the late 20s if you're interested there, because the Broncos, that's a position it takes 2 years for that guy to get there. So if you invest now, you get dividends later. But that's what I'm thinking right now. It's probably a trade back. And I think the Bears might come up for Mac Jones. I really do. I think that's the team that you want to look out for. Maybe bring Roquan Smith back in a trade down. A Vic's guy.
What if the Bucks drafted him too, man? And they say, it's the perfect system, Tom Brady-esque system. And they're like, oh, we can microwave we don't have to microwave your development. You could sit there and chill for a little bit. Right. I don't know, man. It's hard to say with these quarterbacks, but Glenn Hauser, a friend of the show, an MHRT guy, those guys are so ornery, but they're great supporters of our show. Glenn's coming in. What do you guys think of getting Sam Darnold? Nick had a really, really good comparison rather, with what a best case Sam Darnold looks like with a possible Ryan Tannehill. I do not like the Broncos trading for Sam Darnold. I don't want to give away draft capital just to give Drew Lock, competition, I guess is being thrown out there a lot. Maybe you need to give Drew Lock competition. I think if you've got to give your starting quarterback competition, that's a problem already. Drew's already got a problem with being inconsistent. So I'm not so high on Sam Darnold myself.
Yeah, I think he has the best upside of the available options, taking Deshaun Watson off the table and rookie quarterbacks off the table. And he's also younger than Drew Lock. He does have some questions, but man, that New York team was really bad around him. Can you name any starters worthwhile on that team that he's had there? I can think of Mekhi Becton. That was just this year, though. And also one offensive lineman is not an offense mate.
Crowder.
Just ask Brown. Okay.
That's it.
Crowder is probably like Deshaun Hamilton level at this point.
Yeah, and that's it. And he's a little receiver. That doesn't work. They go small in the receivers over there. They don't invest in their linemen, and it's weird. What are they doing? Yeah. What are they doing in New York? And that's what Larry Vaughn wants to know. What are they doing in Denver right now? Larry Vaughn with the $2 super. Love that John Elway jersey, that original orange crush, the baby blue hat, and the Denver D. Mm-hmm. Nick, why is Jeff Driscoll still on the roster? Can you answer that for Larry? Because I know Zach Kelberman wants to know. Chad wants to know. I want to know. Everyone and their mother wants to know. Why is he still on the roster, Nick?
None of his salary is guaranteed. So if you release him before the draft, it doesn't matter. You can just clear that cap space right then. So there's no need to rush it. I think it's an inevitability. It'll come down the tracks. It'll happen. It's just there wasn't that deadline where so much of his salary cap or salary hit was going to be guaranteed past a certain date. So it'll happen. The Broncos aren't they don't need, what would they say, like $2 million? Like that's not going to make or break a deal that they're going to make right now. So it's going to happen. So it doesn't matter yet.
I agree with that. And you don't necessarily want to tip your hand right away. I mean, the Broncos didn't give a ton of, a lot of people thought they would get Andy Dalton. And meanwhile, the Bears are saying QB1, Andy Dalton, and they're still trying to get Russell Wilson. And it's just, talk about breaking the internet, folks. Go out there on Twitter and take a look at QB1, Andy Dalton. But the Broncos didn't do that.
For next year. That's my nightmare.
I know. I saw that. I saw you stressing, and get at Nick Kendell, MHH, and drive him crazy on Twitter like I like to do. Try to get that beautiful hair pulled out. But Larry Vaughn's coming in with a generous $5 super chat. Thank you very much, Larry, to tuning in to MHI tonight. Saying, what's up, y'all? Who do you think could make an instant impact that should be available in the mid to late rounds? Larry Vaughn, very good question. Nick, what do you think? Who do you like?
If you're looking for instant impact mid to late rounds, there's really only one position that makes sense, and that would be running back. There's a number of running backs in this class. The Broncos need a running back. The only guy they have on this team beyond 2021 is Mike Boone, who they just brought in, who it sounds like George Paton likes a lot. I think they like him more than, just the name, like Mike Boone, who, and also Bronco fans dismissing him immediately because it was a replacement for Phillip Lindsay. But mid to late rounds, I really like Kylan Hill from Mississippi State. If I could get him round 4 or 5, he's really good. I mean, he's not going to be a dynamic player. He's not going to be like a truly great running back, but I think he could be a 1B in a rotation, and most teams are running back by committee in today's NFL anyway. So I really like Kylan Hill. And there's other running backs as well. Kenneth Gainwell, Felton from UCLA. Those are a little bit more receiving backs, but there are options out there. And if you're looking for impact day one, mid rounds, has to be running back.
I like Khalil Herbert a lot out of Virginia Tech, mid-round. Chubba Hubbard is always a good one. North Carolina's got a couple good backs in there. Yeah, you're right. There's lots of options that you don't have to spend a premier draft pick to go get a running back. And I also like Thomas Graham, that cornerback out of Oregon that I fell in love with in the slot. I really like his potential. I see him as a kind of a late 5th, 6th round guy, maybe even 7th if he falls. But I want to get to one of our good friends here, Gilster37. Don't the Broncos want to draft a quarterback this year?
He doesn't want. Don't want our Broncos.
Okay, go ahead. You got this one. I'm having a senior moment.
Gilster37 and coming in on YouTube, rocking the Mandalorian hat there with his 37 on it too. Pretty sweet. Don't want our Broncos to draft a quarterback this year. Play it out with horse, chicken, lock. So the Broncos are going to bring in a quarterback. The question is, I think there are 4 options right now outside of the draft that they're going to have to bring in somebody. You can't go into this season with Drew Lock. Vic Fangio would probably cry himself to sleep if his only option was Drew Lock turning the ball over like he did last season. So Sam Darnold is in there. That's John Elway's guy. No doubt about it. He's loved Sam Darnold since the beginning. If John Elway was still the GM, I think Sam Darnold would already be on this Broncos team.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Then you have Gardner Minshew. I think that's Vic's guy. Very mistake adverse, maybe not the most dynamic player, but he can guide a plane, right? If you have a top 5 defense, Gardner Minshew isn't going to kill you. He's not going to win many games for you, but he's not going to lose many also. I think Pat Shurmur wants Nick Foles because he knows him, and God help us all if that's the Broncos starting quarterback this year. And then another name to watch, which it'll depend on what happens in that quarterback position, but Teddy Bridgewater is another name that I've heard floated around for specifically linked with George Paton. Would make sense in the Shurmur offense as well. But if I had to rank those guys, I think I'd go with the young options first. Bridgewater, I mean, he's just a placeholder, right? Like the Carolina Panthers know that. It's sloppy seconds all around, man. I'm a little. I'd rather have.
We're over it.
Yeah.
Well, and that's us falling into what John Elway would have done, right? Not to go at Wood, not to go at the man, or anything like that, the Duke of Denver. But those retread quarterbacks are something that we've seen. And by the way, before we get to you, Todd, I know you've been very, very patient. Did you see Joe Flacco got asked again about the mentorship question? Will you be a mentor to Jalen Hurts in Philly? And he gave the same awkward, bizarre answer that he gave about Drew Lock. You could tell that Joe Flacco, in his mind, thinks he is in it for the starting quarterback position. But speaking of quarterbacks, would you guys, this is coming in from Todd Ostendorf, a good friend of the show on MHI, would you guys consider Mac Jones at 9? I'm going to start first. No, absolutely not. And I like Mac Jones. I like him a lot. Now, he was the belle of the ball at the Senior Bowl, but that's not saying much because not a lot of quarterbacks after Mac Jones, in my opinion, in this draft. I mean, a lot of people like Ian Book really, really late. I'm not a big fan of that. You see a lot of other quarterbacks that pop up, third rounders, Trask, I know gets some love and stuff like that. But look, Mac Jones, I like Mac Jones a lot. Now, just because he's not a scrambler, I think a lot of people think he's a statue. I don't think he's a statue. I think his ability to process information and his ability to transfer that onto the field is ultimately his strength. Now, yes, he played at Alabama. Yes, he played for a powerhouse team. Yes, he has the numbers. Can he transition it to the NFL? I'm not sure. I'm not sold on it. So I would absolutely stay away from Mac Jones at 9, even though I like the guy. I really do. But no way at 9. Too rich for me. What say you, Nick?
Yeah, Mac Jones is a quarterback. He's much like Teddy Bridgewater in a way where he's limited arm talent, good processor, not really much of a mover. And if the Broncos, let's say they traded back up into the back end of the first round, like pick 28 through 32 to get that fifth year on that quarterback, cost controlled quarterback, guys, that's the name of the game in today's NFL. If you're roster building, you guys like all the moves the Broncos made this offseason, brought to you by Drew Lock's contract and paying him $2 million against the cap this year compared to Dak Prescott, $45 million. I mean, gosh, you say what you will about Drew Lock, but the reason they're able to make these moves is because they're paying diddly for the quarterback position. So I would consider that if let's say Mac Jones is falling down, but at 9 for the Broncos, no. I am hoping though that maybe some team, the New England Patriots, the Chicago Bears, Washington football team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, there's a number of teams there that maybe would want to come up and get a quarterback, and then Mac Jones at 9, but not to Denver. Not for me. No thanks.
All right, here we go. Gavin coming in with a question. I love that. I love that picture. It got me so distracted of George Paton looking like a gangster. It's the lifeblood of the city would say, who's a gangster to Vance Joseph? But Luke, isn't Micah Parsons bad in coverage? In my opinion, no. Everyone is entitled to their opinion, but what kind of coverage are we talking here? Are we talking about putting him on a receiver? No, we're not doing that. I know he's a sideline to sideline freak running a 4.39 40, but in zone coverage, you bet. He can at times get a little bit mixed up, and this comes up on tape in the middle of the field. Nick, you've seen it too, and I'm a big Parsons guy, but I'm not saying he's going to be your Kelsey killer. I think he can bring an underrated pass rush to the game also, but I think he's going to definitely plague the problem of not having an athletic linebacker. Vic Fangio has had his host of athletic linebackers everywhere but Denver. And bless his heart to the outlaw, Josie Jewell. He's not an athlete. Alexander Johnson, the T-Rex dance. Okay. But man, can we give Vic Fangio a linebacker? That's all I want to know.
Yeah, I think you can find them though day 2 this year. That's a lot of the best linebackers in the NFL were picked day 2. There's actually a study by Timo Riske of Pro Football Focus where there's not a correlation between day 1 versus day 2 for starting linebackers in the NFL. So you can find them day 2. And I think that's where I would be looking this draft cycle. But Parsons, bad in coverage, I would say that's not necessarily true. You're not going to ask him to man up. But I come back to this point. How often does Vic Fangio actually ask his linebackers to play man coverage? He doesn't. They're spot drops. My biggest concern with his ability in coverage is just processing. Sometimes he's kind of a dog chasing cars. He'll get mixed up. He'll take the cheese, so to speak. Especially against the Chiefs, you have all these jet sweeps and whatnot. He's going to turn his hips and he's going to be in the wrong position, and somebody else is going to come into his zone. And he's going to have no idea. And when the back 7 of the Broncos, it's really important for those linebackers to be consistent in their spot, knowing what's going on. And that's not really what Parsons showed. But granted, very young to the position, year off. Who knows what he would have shown this year. I just think, for me at 9 for Parsons, there's just too many factors against him where it's just like one too many. Like, I'll let somebody else take the chance, right? And if he hits, that's great. And this is probably me, the same reason I'm scared of pocket-based quarterbacks. I'm scared of these guys with this many red flags. It's not just like one incident, it's multiple incidences. Malik McDowell. I loved Malik McDowell coming out of Michigan State in 2017. I mean, he's 300 pounds, 6'6", like 35-inch arm length, freak athlete. I mean, nobody could block him. He's one of the reasons Michigan State even made it to the playoffs that season, because he was just a different player, top 5 level talent. Didn't even play a snap in the NFL. Everybody's like, oh, Nick, he has all these red flags. Like, what are you doing? Like, he's an idiot. This guy's an idiot. Like, don't take the cheese. I didn't care. And out of the league, didn't even play a single snap in the NFL. So I got the heebie-jeebies with this many red flags. And like family friends, Bucky Brooks saying like, Parsons really good. Don't know if he's mature to maximize what he's going on. Like, that's a close family friend of his. I'll let somebody else take the chance.
I hear you. I hear you. But at the same time, man, we're going to talk about character issues. Look, we're in a league that's not exactly full of Boy Scouts, and that's where I got to give pushback. Look at the Broncos. Most arrests since 2000. Definitely not proud of that. And I think George Paton will immediately start to change the culture. So you have every right to believe, look, man, character concerns. George Paton's trying to bring back some guys. Kareem Jackson, by the way, who had a DWI. The Broncos, Von Miller, just went under investigation. Found no charges, by the way. I want to make that very, very clear, so nothing is ever confused. But there are these problems, and you certainly don't want to bring them in. But I will also point out 3.0 GPA average, graduated with a degree in criminology. He obviously kept his nose clean this last year with that silly little bug that Carl's daughter likes to talk about with regards to his pro day and how he showed up. So I think he's worth a second chance. That's something I actually asked Mark Schlereth about on the local radio show this last week. But I think he's worth a second chance. But Nick, I think you're right. Definitely worth a second look at those character concerns and something that you cannot ignore. And speaking of not ignoring, Gavin has been very, very patient. Gavin, thank you very, very much. Gavin Hoy with a $2 super chat. This draft is going to be so unpredictable, and it will be fun. Nick, we are just, almost a month away, almost less than a month away. I think Gavin's right. We're seeing these big moves, and I don't think they're over yet.
Yeah, I mean, we got more coming down the tracks. We'll see what happens. I think the Broncos are going to make a move for a quarterback at this point now that that trade domino has fallen. So we'll see what happens. But coming in again, Montungus Creevy. Alex Smith is still available. You think Peyton is waiting to see if his price goes down? Smith, Darnold, Minshew. I would be okay if we don't draft one of the big four. The big four being Lawrence, Lance, Fields, and Wilson, I would assume. Alex Smith, I mean, maybe, I don't know. Like Alex Smith last year, good story. He was still limited, right? Like a lot of what made Alex Smith a really good quarterback, obviously a smart guy, but it was the good accuracy with the athleticism. And that athleticism is it's gone, right? He just can't move anymore. So I guess we could bring in Alex Smith, but I'd be much more interested in other options. But Alex Smith would have made sense to me if you were able to trade up for a quarterback in this cycle and then maybe recoup some capital, trading Drew Lock after that. But now, I mean, I couldn't go in next season feeling good about Alex Smith versus Drew Lock. I'd feel better about it than Nick Foles versus Drew Lock. I will say that. But giving up capital for Nick Foles, no thank you. I don't know. He's a good story. I just think that his time has come and gone. If you're depending on him to start, you're not going to have a good time.
Mike, you've actually been killing it, man. Absolutely killing it. Montungus Creevy, MHRT, good friends of the show. And they support our show, MHI. They're blowing the doors off of it tonight, Mike. Really appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. Alex Smith for me, Mike, I know you love Alex Smith. Great story. And I think he's a little underrated, to be honest. I would much rather have Alex Smith than Joe Flacco as a backup quarterback. You know what I mean? Like, I think he's definitely a better quarterback than maybe Joe Flacco. I'm trying to come up with another backup quarterback that I'm not really in love with. I know Colt McCoy. Is he going? Where did he go? I know Chase Daniel went to the Chargers. Colt McCoy, I thought, was going Arizona. I think behind Kyler Murray is where Colt McCoy went. So you see some quarterbacks on the move. I'm not a big fan of Alex Smith. I just think George Paton wants to go in a different direction. I know there's some crazy darkness surrounding Deshaun Watson and everything that's going on there right now. The Broncos, I'm sure, are monitoring that very closely. But Deshaun Watson, whether or not he's going to be an option, who knows? But it's just like Gavin said, man, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be unpredictable. Mike, I want to know, out of those quarterbacks, who do you love, Montungus? Let me know, man. Let us know in the comment section, and we'll give you some love there, because I like Zach Wilson. He's my guy behind Trevor Lawrence. I know there are whispers in the scouting community of some teams liking Zach Wilson over Trevor Lawrence. I think that's a little over-exaggerated, specifically in the media. And, Nick, you've got your ear to the grindstone just like me. But who's your number one quarterback outside of Lawrence? Can I guess? Can I say Trey Lance?
No, it's Justin Fields.
Is it Justin Fields, really?
I really like Trey Lance, but he has much less tape. He's less accurate, and I've seen Justin Fields against the best of the best play great football over multiple games, and I feel like a lot of people really hold that Indiana Northwestern games against him, but like, you play enough games, you're going to put a stinker out there. Right, like I remember Peyton Manning against the Falcons year one, throwing just like all these interceptions. So, you're going to have bad games when you play that many. Also, Ohio State dealt with like so many different sick little bug outbreaks that made it pretty darn hard for them to figure out what's going on. So he was playing great before that. I think before those two games, he had more touchdowns than incompletions, which is just insane. So I really don't. There's such a cognitive dissonance right now between what I'm hearing about Justin Fields and what I see and what I evaluated. And there's smart people in the league. Maybe there's something there, but it seems so different than what I saw. Like Justin Fields, he would discount quarterback off the board if I was in charge.
Not only do you look like James Palmer, but you think like him too with that Ohio State love. I'm going to give you that. And look, you might be able to, the Ohio State, as James Palmer would say, of course, our guy that we love, JP. But I think you could have your quarterback, Nick, in this scenario. Brent Mason with a $5 super. Appreciate you joining MHI. Thank you so much for your support. It helps us do what we are allowed to do, what we are passionate about, what we are paid to do. We appreciate you guys and your donations very, very much. Brent Mason coming in saying, look, Nick, Drew Lock, pick number 9, a second rounder, and a 2022 first rounder to the Atlanta Falcons for pick 4 and a 7th rounder. What do you guys think? Nick, 1, do you think that's an option? Because I think that sounds very reasonable. 2, who do you think would be there at number 4 that you would be trading up to go get?
From what I'm hearing right now, it would be Justin Fields, but it's possible, that 3 pick, I think 1 and 2 we can put in Penn, Trevor Lawrence, and Zach Wilson. 3, still a mystery. I think it's going to come out pretty soon, but I think apparently the 49ers tried really hard to get up to 2 as well, and the Jets said, nope, we're sticking here, which means, everybody's like, oh, they're going to keep Sam Darnold. No, they're not. They're not going to keep Sam Darnold. They're trading Sam. So like I said last week, actually, we could go today. If I was in charge of the Broncos, there are 4 quarterbacks that I like pretty much, Trevor Lawrence number 1, but then Wilson, Lance Fields. I like all of them. I think it's just flavors of ice cream, right? Like, give them to me. It's great. Neapolitan. So I would have traded up to 4 a month ago, and that way I would have guaranteed at least one of those guys. And obviously there's specifics there, personalities, scheme fits, etc. But where I'm sitting, I would be happy building around any of them. I think they each have a chance to be special quarterbacks. So I would love to move up to that. I think given the market, and also it sounds like the Patriots might be interested in moving up. Maybe even the Vikings might be interested in moving up. The Panthers, maybe they would be willing to pay just an insane deal because they have to do interdivision. And it's been obvious Panthers want to go after quarterback. So you'd have to pay. I think it costs actually even more than that to go up to 4. But we'll see. I think I would definitely be willing to give up $940, a 2022 first and Lock to go up and get that 4th pick.
Not me, man. Just because I'm not a Justin Fields guy, and I think you're right. I think Fields will be there. But here's the thing, Nick, and I'll give you just a little teaser to think about, or a mind twister. The Jets do weird things. They do things that they shouldn't do. And I know Robert Salas is over there now, and he's going to change the culture, but he's not the one calling the shots. GM's calling the shots over there. They could go Penny Sewell because they're the Jets and they do weird things. I don't know, man, but something to watch out for. But Glenn Hauser, friend of the show, $4.99 super chat. Well, another one of those MHRT fellas. Who is each of your dream selection this year? Any round. And what player do each of you absolutely want the Broncos to run from? Again, any round. And guys, when I refer to MHRT, these are the Mile High Roundtable podcast. They're friends of the show. They've got Glenn Hauser. They've got Christy, Richie Rich, Mike Mundungus Creevy, our guy, Mr. Boggins. They've got another name. I can't say the Twitter handle over YouTube. Otherwise, YouTube will get after me a little bit. But a 6 foot, I'll go ahead and give you that shout out on your Twitter handle. These guys do great, great work. So be sure to check out the MHRT podcast. But Nick, your dream selection, any round. Who do you like? And who is your nightmare selection? Run away. Glenn wants to know.
My nightmare selection would probably be,
Micah Parsons.
Like if they traded up to 4 and take Mac Jones, I'd be pretty upset. Also, if they traded up for any non-quarterback, I would be upset because the cost to get up would be dumb. There's just too many red flags with Parsons. It makes me feel nervous about it. And he plays a devalued position, right? I'm sorry, Luke. I know that the linebacker position, you don't have to have elite linebackers to have a good defense. Pass rush and coverage.
Tell that to the Kansas City Chiefs, brother. Tell that to the Kansas City Chiefs and what we just saw. We just saw the formula on how you can possibly exploit Pat Mahomes. And you cannot be telling me that Mr. Long coming out of retirement is going to be able to protect Pat Mahomes. Give me a break, dude. I think the linebacker position is absolutely an upgrade that we need because we've got 2 guys that can't run. They can't run.
Yeah, I think it needs an upgrade, but I don't also think they have a high floor. And we saw last year the wheels didn't fall off the bus until the cornerback room died. And they really attacked that this year. And also, you're talking about the Super Bowl. I know we came out of that thinking, oh, Levante David, Devin White. I came out of that thinking, if you can get pressure with 4 and keep guys back, Todd Bowles, the lowest pressure rate he's ever called a defense in his history of coaching. If you can get pressure with 4 and get 7 back and make them play dink and dunk football, eventually Mahomes is going to blink. He's greedy. He's going to look to go down the field. And I think he's not taking what's in front of him sometimes. Same with Russell Wilson. Those guys are looking to make big plays. Good for them. They're hunters. But like, I think they're not going to execute 12 play drives for touchdowns every time. And it's, especially with how good the red zone defense is. So I'd rather invest in more coverage guys and speed. And if there's a linebacker there that can bring athleticism in day 2, I'm in. I just don't know with Parsons, the position, the 1 year of tape, the year off, and all the red flags. It's just too much. And a lot coming into this year or 2 years ago, I was like, Micah Parsons, special. This is like Saquon Barkley if he played linebacker. Loved him, but it just went too many things. I'll let somebody else take a chance.
And how dare you have an opinion that's different than mine? But Nick, right. I love it. Nick absolutely spit and fire. Another one of our supporters that always spits fire and has great comments and questions, and absolutely love it. Joshua Shadow, thank you for joining the show, and thank you for your $5 super chat. What good's a no-fly zone 2.0 if the offense is keeping them on the field? Nick, what say you? Joshua coming in with just a little bit of patting that, shoulder just a little bit, saying, "Hey man, come on now. What good is it? What good's this no fly zone 2.0? I hate that, by the way. I don't know how you feel about that, but I hate it, dude.
I think that a lot of these moves have very much been made in a save Vic Fangio's job mold, and they've given him kind of like what we hoped for last year with Drew Lock. No excuses. You got everything you needed here. No excuses. Go perform or, see ya. And that's kind of not that obviously didn't happen when Drew Lock. Injuries happened, a pandemic, everything, so whatever, here we are. But I think that's the biggest thing here. And it would be unfortunate if let's say Drew Lock was bottom 5 quarterback in this year, second in the league in turnover rate, like that will kill a defense. That will kill a team. You can't do that in today's NFL. But they have 1 year, 2 years to maximize this defense. Let's hope they do it. Defenses are volatile. They're unsustainable, but you can have one great season that can take you pretty far. And let's hope that has to be the formula this year, because I don't see Drew Lock just turning around from a bottom 5 quarterback to top 10 this season.
No, I don't either. And Mundungus Creevy coming in with a very generous $4.99 super chat. Thank you very much, Mundungus. I miss my Fitz magic. And man, Fitzpatrick, Nick, that was a big one that a lot of Broncos country, a lot of fans liked. I know Mundungus really, really liked it. And he was always after me on Twitter, letting me know that he loved it. We saw my guy, Jacoby Brissett. He went down to the Dolphins, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, so he went to the Dolphins. Fitzmagic went to the Washington football team, correct?
Got it. Yep.
Yeah, so
it'll be fun. That's a fun team. They got obviously Terry McLaurin out there, a really good player. They signed Curtis Samuel as well. Maybe they'll go wide receiver in the first round, Rashad Bateman, something like that. So I'm interested to see what that Washington football team does. And everybody's talking about the Broncos having a great defense. I think the number 1 defense in football right now is that Washington football team defense. So we'll see what happens there. We got Robert Caslow coming in. Robert, good to see you. You're always in the show every single week, Tuesdays, Saturdays. I'm sure you're there the other days as well. We appreciate you, Robert. Is safety still a priority in free agency or the draft? I don't know if I would say it's a priority, so to speak, because the Broncos could go so many different ways in the draft now that they filled everything as far as needs for 2021. Now they could go, obviously you probably disagree with linebacker, but if they went into the season with Jewell, Johnson, Stranad, and like a 4th round pick at linebacker, they would be okay. They wouldn't kill this team because the linebacker is not going to move the needle that much. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I really think maybe Roquan Smith might still be in the works here. We'll see what happens. But that's Vic's guy, man. That's Vic's guy.
Dang it.
But safety, I would say I would love to bring Will Parks back for a cheap, maybe close to vet min. Come back. He knows the schemes. Yes. Third safety, special teams. That would be great. Also, I think safety day 2. Day 3, there's some guys you can get there that I think they would be interested in. And with Kareem Jackson's contract just 1 year, I mean, it's one where if you like a guy, go get it. You're patching a need for 2022 before it's even a need. And that's just good business. That's just good team building.
Speaking of building, Christopher Kramer is coming in. Christopher Kramer, please take a screenshot of this on your phone because I would love to be wrong. I would love to eat crow. And Chris, please do, because that would be magical. This would be Garrett Bowles-esque turnaround, right? Chris coming in with Drew Lock is going to throw hella touchdowns this season. And everyone think of this very comment. Cheers. And I told you. I absolutely love it, Chris, because you're going with a comment that you believe in. You're going with a take that you believe in, and you're not letting anybody bully you out of your opinion. It's something that Nick and I are always fighting against, and we love to jab at each other. And it's because we're friends and we can do that. And it's all in good nature. And we never get our feelings hurt. And you guys feel free to poke at us too. But if you've got an unpopular opinion, share it, because I'm wrong all the time. Nick's wrong all the time. These draft analysts, these GMs are wrong all the time. You never know in the draft. So I absolutely love it. Wouldn't it be great if Drew Lock worked out? And
best case scenario. And in the shop, Willie is talking about best case scenario.
Best case scenario of getting his comment read on MHI is by throwing down some knowledge, a $5 super chat. I think our offense is underrated because of the concerns with Drew Lock. He'll be much improved, and you can't overstate the impact of Sutton coming back. In the shop, Willie, I love it because Cortland Sutton is a forgotten Bronco right now, right? People are forgetting about it. I know you're not, Nick, but I think sometimes he's getting caught up. He's getting lost in the rehab room, so to speak. What do you think? What would you tell In the Shop, Willie, based off of his Drew Lock optimism, especially with one Cortland Sutton coming back?
I think that Drew Lock will be better this year. How much better? We will see. The biggest thing for me, even if he, let's say he plays less explosive football, hits less tight window throws, you just cannot turn the ball over like he did. You can't put the ball in harm's way, give the defense bad field position time and time again. An incompletion, a 3-and-out, a punt, not the worst case scenario. Giving the ball away, fumbling it, interception, bad Lock. Bad. So that's what we need to avoid. So Sutton coming back. Yes, I love Sutton. I feel like, don't forget about him. I think he's a borderline top 10 wide receiver coming into this past season before injury. And who's a huge fan of Sutton? Every single time they show him, George Paton's got hard eyes talking about Cortland Sutton. He gave his kid, not a Jerry Jeudy jersey, Cortland Sutton jersey, out there watching him run routes. I think that after Kenny Galladay's contract too, if you have any thoughts on Sutton's knee, like if you think he's fine at all, I'd offer him a deal today because I think he's going to get paid. He's going to get paid next offseason. And I don't want it to be like Justin Simmons where we could have got him for $12 million a year and a half ago. Yeah, I'd rather be on front of that.
I disagree. I don't think Cortland Sutton's going to get paid, and I don't think that it's not because I want him
from Denver.
From Denver.
Okay, because he's going to get paid in general.
Oh, he's going to get paid, but I think having Jerry Jeudy here was John Elway's plan of hopefully that works out so I don't have to pay Sutton. But like you said, George Paton, he's changing things around. And Dylan Von Arks, we got to get him in. He's a huge friend of the show. You can actually check him out on a couple of the Huddle Up pods as well, throwing down some great knowledge, saying, look, it doesn't matter how good your defense is if they're constantly put in bad positions due to the offense ineptitude when they will fail. And Dylan, I think that's something that George Paton recognized when he started going through the film and grinding and talking with Vic. I think he's probably talked to Pat Shurmur. I think things should be different this year. I know that some have called it the year of the lame duck. I've referred to it like that at times, but I think George Paton's going to definitely turn this ship around, and I think he's at least started by some of the moves that he's made.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. Thank you very much for the comment, Dylan. I think Dylan also rocks the James Palmer haircut. So a shout out to Dylan.
A couple of handsome fellas, Nick and Dylan.
We got Dennis Woods coming in on YouTube with a super. Thank you very much, Dennis. Always around here. We appreciate you. So if you don't see Lock going from bottom 5 to top 10, do you think Fields or Lance takes us further? Personally, I do. Both of those guys take care of the football, and that's probably the biggest thing. Again, turnovers. Lock is more turnovers than your corner store bakery, right? You can't have it in today's NFL. Yeah, so it's an issue. You just can't. So
Troy Rank would love that, by the way. That was like a Nick Kendallism. We call them Troy Rankisms. That's a Nick Kendallism, and you heard it here first on MHI. And as we start to wrap up MHI, Mundungus Creevy coming in with such a generous $4.99 super. Really, really appreciate you, Mike. We'll be chatting very soon. What is your definition of working out when it comes to Drew Lock. My definition of it working out when it comes to Drew Lock is he comes out and lights the league on fire this year. The Broncos maybe have to squat on Deshaun Watson until next year, and he holds out. They're not able to trade up and get a quarterback, so they roll out there with Drew Lock. He's your starter. That's definitely a possibility. I don't know how likely it is because George Paton does play those cards choice to his vest, but to me, best case scenario, working out, Lock comes out and balls out, like one of our friends told us earlier. So what about you, Nick? Best case scenario for Drew Lock working out. What's that look like?
Oh, best case scenario, Drew Lock has a outlier historical turnaround that we've only seen like pretty much Josh Allen. That's about it over the last 10 years. Ryan Tannehill maybe as well. That's another one. But he has to make a huge turnaround from his processing, his accuracy. I mean, it's an advanced stat. Roll your eyes all you want, but completion percentage over expected. It takes the depth of target and whatever that quarterback that you're judging or analyzing did over the league average for that type of throw. And Drew Lock consistently has been the worst in the NFL, and in college football with some of the worst completion percentage over expected. He just doesn't see it well and not accurate. And when you have that combination, you're not getting the ball away, and that on top of turnover. So I think best case or working out for Drew Lock, I really think there's a path where Drew Lock can still work out, but it's not the path that many people consider working out for a quarterback. It's a little bit more nuanced, so bear with me here. But it's the Kirk Cousins on the Washington football team path, where you are using him and you are maximizing him on that rookie contract to build around him. And then when the time comes, you say, you know what? I enjoyed you for what we were paying you. I'm not paying you big money. Good luck elsewhere, and we'll try our hand elsewhere. That's probably working out for Drew Lock, which is fine. I mean, you maximize the 4-year window. You don't want to pay him big money. He gets it elsewhere. Good luck. It's kind of the Brock Osweiler too. That's another one. Like, okay, you're not going to stay here. We'll see you in Houston.
And isn't that weird to think? I wanted to argue with you saying they didn't pay him big money. They franchise tagged him. When you look at quarterback money then compared to now, It was nothing. I mean, It was nothing really compared to the deal that he got. Orange Crush coming in, a huge fan and friend of MHH and a friend of mine. I love Orange Crush. Mm-hmm. Do you guys think one of the wide receivers would be traded for a blockbuster trade for a quarterback, possibly referring to Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson maybe? Absolutely. I would expect a Jerry Jeudy to be traded. Someone who's got a little bit more longevity on his contract, less injuries than Courtland Sutton. That's Noah Fant, maybe, I think is in the mix also because he's a very respected and valuable asset in today's NFL. Yeah.
I think it was possible that you could have seen Jerry Jeudy in a pick swap to go up to 3 with the Dolphins because the Dolphins are in on Tua Tagovailoa. Yep. And pairing Jerry Jeudy with Tua Tagovailoa probably gives Tua the best chance to succeed. And also it's a chip that the Broncos have that no other team could offer. But come and gone. That maybe if a quarterback they like falls to 6, maybe that's still in the talks there. But I think that's probably out of there. And, I'm excited to have Jerry Jeudy back. It's maybe this is me being a pessimist and being a little bit too deep of a cut. But Nietzsche, nihilism, philosophy, nothing matters. That's kind of what life is without a quarterback in the NFL, right? Like if you don't have a quarterback, it doesn't matter who your wide receivers are. It doesn't matter if you have a Hall of Fame edge rusher. You need to get lucky in one season. And if you don't maximize that season, back to irrelevance you go. The 2017 Jags, the 2018 Bears. You have one good season with defense because so much of it is depend on youth, health, keeping cost-controlled guys. That doesn't last very long. You maybe get 1.5 seasons, 2 seasons, and then back to relevance. So if you don't have the quarterback, good luck.
I agree, and the Broncos can agree with that because, guys, Broncos country has been withering away since the sheriff rode off, and until you have that quarterback, you're going to be in a quarterback purgatory. Mm-hmm. And In the Shop Willie is going to close out our show tonight with the $2 super. Appreciate you so much. Support means everything. With Courtland Sutton's hands, they're all good throws, and I love it because I think Courtland Sutton, I was a little premature in saying I think he was a top 3 wide receiver. But I expect him to come out with his hair on fire this year. I love Courtland Sutton. Just couldn't say better things. But Ben Dover coming in with a $4.99 super chat. Also appreciate you so much. Thank you for the support. Love the orange in the photo as well. Does Sam Darnold, Gardner Minshew beat out Drew Lock in the competition? Jacksonville just picked up Beathard. Sam Darnold, no, not for me. I think he's got the ability to, but I would rather see Drew Lock play just because I don't like Sam Darnold. Gardner Minshew, yes, I think he beats Drew Lock out. I think a lot of quarterbacks beat Drew Lock out, Nick. And what do you make of the news? Jacksonville just picking up CJ Beathard.
Well, first off, CJ Beathard, let's go Hawks. Iowa Hawkeye there, represent. Had to get that in. Everyone drink. I can't go a show without mentioning my Iowa Hawks guys. That's for the brand. But I think both those guys would actually beat out Drew Lock. Maybe not as for sure with Sam Darnold, because both Sam Darnold and Drew Lock are pretty turnover prone right now. But guys, Vic Fangio, like I'm telling you, this is from more than one source. Like he is not a fan of that quarterback turning the ball over, because it's screwing his defense. And that's how he thinks he's going to keep his job. That's how he thinks they're going to have a good team this year. And you can't have that with turning the ball over. You just can't.
Spot on.
I think go ahead.
Spot on. And all Vic Fangio cares about is his defense. And when his defense is constantly getting, shorted, to put it nicely and clean it up for podcasting, he's absolutely going to be upset. And I couldn't agree more, Nick. But Glenn Hauser coming in with a $4.99 super. Another one of those MHRT guys, man. They're absolutely killing it. Be sure to say what's up to Boggs. I know he's on the show as well. Wouldn't this all be so much easier if Drew Lock had killed it last season and there were no questions about the quarterback position? Glenn, another one of those great football minds, referring to the Broncos investing in Drew Lock in last year's draft class with Jerry Jeudy, with KJ Hamler, with Lloyd Cushenberry. Wouldn't this all be easier if it worked out with Drew Lock? I mean, gosh dang it, Nick.
We had hopes, and it's something. Shout out to Joe Marino over the Draft Network. I heard him talk about it on one of his shows where the Broncos did this in theory last year, and he kind of got mixed bag, but it was called isolating the variable. Again, we're getting real nerdy and in the weeds here, guys, but isolating the variable. So quarterback, you want to make sure that they are surrounded by the most talent possible, and so that way when you come down to it, there's no excuse for them. If they sucked, it's because the quarterback sucked. Right. And you can argue that the Broncos were extremely young. It was obviously the sick little bug this year. And it took a little bit of time for the offensive line to gel and really get it together. You really started to see that from the Miami game onwards when that offensive line started to click. So did the offense. But I would say the Broncos tried really hard last year to isolate the variable, which is evaluating the quarterback play. But there's, for everybody saying, Drew Lock maybe not the guy or not good enough or won't be good enough, he has 10,000 valid excuses as well. So I think we're fixing to find out this year. But I think Drew Lock is also going to have to earn his keep and earn his spot before week 1.
Love the Gary Kubiak fixing to find out. And Joe Patterson, love that last name, by the way. Appreciate you so much with our 150 stars. And Ness A. Velasquez, 45 stars. Thank you for the stars, Facebook MHHers. It means so much to us. And as we start to wrap up the show, Mike's coming in with a big reminder, everybody, $4.99 super. Smash those thumbs. Be sure to get at us. Guys, remember, you're listening to the Mile High Insiders. We rock your Saturday nights. I absolutely can't wait on Saturday mornings to get this show going. I missed you guys over my spring break. Get at Mile High Huddle on Twitter for your best Broncos coverage. We've got guys and gals working nonstop. We've got folks working across the globe, Nick. I mean, we've got guys and gals working across the globe. It makes us truly unique. 24/7 coverage. Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. Be sure to check out Manscaped. We got to that. And guys, the biggest thing, get your swag on with us too. That's something that we like. So here right now, you can see at Mile High Huddle. Go ahead and smash that subscription. You can become You can become a supporter. Get your swag on. You can get a hat from MHI, Building the Broncos, the Dove Valley Deep Divers. Those huddle up boys are always causing trouble, guys. We've got a podcast every single day of the week. Get yourself a gator. I traveled with the MHH gator myself when I was on the airports. This is a cap that we absolutely love. And I like the Building the Broncos too. I originally had a bet with Carl too, and I think he owes me a Building the Broncos hat, by the way, that I'm going to have to get in there. So guys, thank you so much. Chad Jensen absolutely killed it producing for us. We've got our MHI t-shirts. I usually wear that as well. Very, very comfortable stuff. Get yourself a coffee mug. Get yourself a tank for spring break if you're going to be traveling. And be sure to get your swag on at huddleuppod.com. Nick, what a great show, man. I know we went over by just a few minutes, but when you're having so damn fun, so much damn fun, subscribe, like, and share. This is what we do. I don't mind going over 10 minutes, man, because this was a blast. Thank you so much for a great show, buddy.
Yeah, make sure you guys follow us on Twitter. You can follow Luke at Luke Patterson LP. Follow myself at Nick Kendell MHH. Oh, we got another one. Buzzer beater here. Damian Clark Warren, $5. Thank you so much, Damian, from over on YouTube. You can't tell me that we're possibly considering giving up that for the old guy from Seattle. Oh, so you're talking about Russell Wilson? I'm not sure exactly what we're talking about here, but if the Broncos, with this defense, how they are right now and how short windows can be, if they could bring in Russell Wilson, I would do that yesterday. He's still he's a top 5 quarterback. He will be a top 5 quarterback for the next 5 seasons, and 5 seasons is an eternity. 5 seasons ago, Peyton Manning was playing quarterback for the Broncos, right? Like I will take that every day.
Yeah, well, and Russell Wilson doesn't want to play in his own division right now. Everybody's going all out in that division. So Russell Wilson, we'll keep our eye on it. Be sure to check out milehighhuddle.com, at Mile High Huddle on Twitter for the best Broncos coverage. He's Nick Kendell. I'm Luke Patterson. And we got another buzzer beater. And I will absolutely take it because you guys rock with us. You absolutely deserve our full attention as well. Tyler Randall, a huge friend of the show, $5 super chat coming in. Great work, guys, and have a great night, fellas. Denver Broncos for life. You guys, we appreciate it so much. I hope you guys have a great weekend as well. I know holidays are going on right now, religious holidays, so many blessings, positivity, great energy, and can't thank everybody enough for all the support that you give Mile High Huddle, all of our pods, Nick and myself. Nick, any final words as we close the show out?
Honestly, we need to have like some sort of sound effect for these buzzer beaters, like the rap air horn coming in, like, oh, a buzzer beater coming in here. Appreciate you guys so much. Saturday night, obviously the Broncos didn't make that move up, but this is a team that's going to be as enjoyable to watch as we've seen for the last 5 seasons. I mean, Luke and I may have our doubts about Drew Lock and how valid he is overall as an actual franchise quarterback, but it beats the heck out of, arguing about Trevor Siemian or Joe Flacco or Case Keenum. So, okay. All right, there we go. Madungus.
Madungus coming in with $4.99 just to get at us with a high, showing us all that support and love.
So we appreciate you guys. Stay safe. Find our work over at Mile High Huddle. I got to get Chad out here so he can go work publishing a bunch of my articles that he has waiting on you. No, I'm just giving Chad a hard time because he's here today. Shout out also. John will be back with us next week. So appreciate you guys. Stay safe. Love y'all. Go Broncos.
Go Broncos.